Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Michael Moll says Rangers are not yet ready to compete with Celtic. We will look at the results from the divisions in Scotland last night. And we'll also talk about the Championship. Rangers now 14 points clear with 9 games remaining. And down south, England's top 5 clubs have been talking about a European Super League. Just a few of the points we'll discuss. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and I'm delighted to say Queen's Park boss Gus MacPherson is our boot-room guest tonight. So quite a lot to discuss. A few results that certainly caught the eye as well, lads. Rangers in the Championship took a major step towards the Premiership next season, Ruffy, with that win over Raith Rovers.
Yep, I think Rangers have went on a good run at the right time. Not last night they won convincing, but the 3 or 4 games before that they scored late on in games. But winning games is what it's all about. And when you come to this end of the season, that's what gets you over the line.
Yep, I don't know if you managed to see it, Ruffy, but Harry Forrester's goal was an absolute peach.
Yeah, they're pleased for the boy. I mean, I was surprised when they initially took him on loan, but he's doing himself a lot of favours, the way he's playing just now. And if he's trying to get a new contract, I'm sure he will.
Yep, and of course, Mark Warburton mentioned, Gus, that he's got no qualms with the fans celebrating. He's still focused on getting the job done. I think we've worked it out that it's only 5 more wins for Rangers to wrap up promotion.
In my opinion, it's over. The gap there, is very quickly stretched into that 14 points. And Rangers haven't played particularly well in recent weeks, but they've got the results, bit of quality there for Forrester in the 2 games against St Mirren and against Raith Rovers, some really quality finishes. But that's the most important thing at this stage of the season, is just getting the 3 points, because Hibs have got their eye maybe in the cup final, eye on the semi-final as well. Just maybe a bit too much for them coming all at this short period of time, and they've suffered because of that.
Yeah, well, Harry Forrester, certainly a delighted player, one of many in the Rangers side. There's the tweet, another great 3 points, said the Rangers player. Solid performance from everyone. Happy to get another goal and on to the cup. The support was brilliant as usual. And of course, it's Rangers against Dundee in the Scottish Cup. Here's the fixtures and the results from last night in the Championship. And Ruffy, I'm drawing your attention to one in particular there. Queen of the South 1, Hibernian 0. Well, it's worrying that the players now 3 defeats in a row.
Yeah, I think they didn't play particularly bad last night. They just couldn't get the ball over the line, and obviously Queen of the South nicked one, which was the important part of it. But like Gus, I think maybe the pressure hanging on to Rangers is just beginning to tell. That was an amazing run they went on, to keep a hold of Rangers. But players, they step up a lot of times. But when the big ones come along, sometimes it's not very, very difficult to just go that wee bit further.
Yeah, is that the difference between people who've been over the course before or people who've got the right mentality, Gus? I mean, Alan Stubbs, to his credit, didn't say Hibs were going to win the treble. He said they were in 3 competitions and they'll be doing their best in all 3. But this one has collapsed.
Yeah, but I think that's, even I think with Alan's experience, he would have known it would have been a tough ask to compete in all these areas. But he would have been completely focused on the league. It's not as if he would have been distracted, by the cup competitions, but just subconsciously, it's maybe been in the players' back of the minds as well. But it maybe just breaks at the right time. Reports from Palmerston was that they played pretty well. They just couldn't score the goals when they were on top. And if you spin that on the Rangers' performance down at Palmerston, they didn't play particularly well, but they had a wonder goal, a freakish goal from Kenny Miller to get the 3 points.
Yeah.
Again, that's the key thing at this period, is just to win the games.
Yeah, well, he'll not be happy with you, by the way. A freakish goal, 20 yards out, roof of the net. Hello, Kenny, phone him. Anyway, on that point, one man who was well used to scoring some great goals for Rangers was Michael Moll. He was in town today promoting, of course, the Cup at the weekend. There are some interesting ties, and of course, talking about his old side Rangers. Are they ready yet, or have they got a bit to go to try and close that gap on Celtic with the Premiership beckoning next season?
No, I think the most important is to compete next year. hopefully in the Premier League, of course, because or else I'm going to quit. But it takes time. Everybody knows that, and I think Mark is building a new team, and what I've heard, he wants maybe 5 or 6 new players. So, and that takes also time to settle.
What is it with Rangers players who look after themselves, Ruffy? He looks as if he could play right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he always was like that. You know, he was always quite a lean guy. But that's what happens. But look, Gus is like that.
You know, all I could hear ringing in my head there was bellies in. But I mean, he's a great player in his day, but I think even he has reiterated what many a person has mentioned, whether it be in the boardroom, Gus, or whether it be actually from the manager himself. Next season, Rangers, it's got to be a gradual process, but I think, you know, even with 5 or 6 new players, the fans' expectations will be through the roof.
Of course, the fans will expect Rangers to compete with Celtic, but the most interesting aspect will be the recruitment. But I think Mark and David Weir will be looking probably closer at Aberdeen and Hearts as well, to try and compete with them. And it's not just, from a technical aspect, because Rangers have got good players, technical players, but it's a physical aspect as well. That over the course of a season, look at the physical presence that Aberdeen and Hearts have got as well. But that will be the most important thing for the Rangers management, department, and the recruitment staff as well, to make sure they get the right type of players that can compete at that level of football.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, just as a side issue, do you guys think that Lee Wallace could play himself back into international contention if he's back playing in the Premiership? Because he scored again last night. He scored some crucial goals this season for Rangers.
I think he's done really well this year. I think he's looked fitter, he's looked stronger as well. Still a top quality left back, but Gordon Strachan seems to prefer young Andy Robertson, ex-Queen's Park, and obviously playing in the English Championship, but getting linked with some top clubs at the moment. So there is a good left back in that position as well. But when you've got somebody like Lee Wallace, champing on the door, team getting into the squad, that shows you there's still players there that are capable of stepping into the breach.
Yeah, of course, Michael Mole's not only talking about the Scottish Cup, but being a Dutchman, clearly has concerns, like many of us in Scotland, about what's going on at the moment with the chat about a possible European Super League or a breakaway league, which would exclude Scottish clubs. This is what he had to say about that.
I didn't follow the news in that way, but I see it as a big problem if it's more difficult for the likes of the Scottish clubs or the Dutch clubs to get into the Champions League. Then the gap between the top of Europe and the rest will only become bigger, especially now with the Premier League getting so much money.
Well, I think that, Gus, the Premier League getting so much money is why guys like Karl-Heinz Rummenigge are putting their head above the parapet with this. It's very worrying. If anything, although it might not happen, I sometimes think people like Rummenigge and others highlight this as almost a bargaining chip to getting something else.
Yeah, it's negotiating, and they're starting at the top end, and bullying maybe a tactic, and a threatening attitude to put other countries under pressure, hoping, that probably knowing that they're not going to get that aspect of it, but there's some there that they're looking for at the back of that, whether it's more money, whether it be another, route to try and get more teams into it from the bigger countries, the television companies who provide the finance for that side of it. There's something there that they're looking for. We just have to wait and see. Unfortunately, we're not in that league at the moment, and however, but the gap is, as Michael says, it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, briefly, Rafi, I'll tell you what the word that Gus was dying to say. Greed.
Yeah, it's great. But I've already touched on it before. Rangers and Celtic have been trying to ditch us for a long, long time. If it was available, they would run and jump as well. And I would like to see if the Atlantic League, are Celtic still pursuing that? Are they going to leave our league to go into that? So that, everybody, they're just looking after themselves as well. And that's what you're saying. It's just, money at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not mention the Atlantic League, Ruffy. That's another programme about 3:30 in the morning, to be honest with you, just due to the fact it's been going that long. It's boring most people. Anyway, lots more to talk about. Of course, Gus alluded to some quality players, and Queen's Park have had more than a few coming through in that talent pool. We'll talk about them next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and our boot room guest is Queen's Park boss Gus MacPherson, and delighted to have Gus with us. Of course, there was a couple of games in the Premiership last night. One of them had a significant impact on one of Gus's old clubs, Kilmarnock. It was a 2-0 win in the end for Ross County, and suddenly they are right in the mix now, Gus.
Yeah, that's a poor result. I think they'd have been looking to try and get 3 points there and try and close that gap on your likes of Hamilton and Partick Thistle, albeit Partick Thistle have got plenty of games in hand, but you now look at the next couple of games, against Celtic and against Aberdeen. It's a tricky spell that they're going through, and Dundee United obviously have that incentive with the game tonight against Aberdeen, but the gap's getting tighter.
Yeah, are you surprised? I mean, Ruffy, and he's got a job to do, but are you surprised that Kilmarnock have looked to a man in Lee Clark that maybe doesn't know the division? I mean, that's the problem now. He's got to try and hit the ground running, getting used to the Scottish game, getting the best out of the players when games are running out.
Yeah, I always think, I don't know if Gus will agree with me, when you're at a club and a new manager comes, I think it's easier if you know that manager rather than somebody coming up and that you don't know. Because he's obviously got different ideas, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think a lot of owners just take it for granted a new guy coming in is going to turn things around. It doesn't happen all the time. It happens sometimes. But I think depending on the players you've got at the actual club at the time, whether they buy into what the new guy's saying.
Well, here's the results from last night, and of course the fixtures taking place tonight. Hearts in the end 2-0 winners over Inverness Cally Thistle. I think their third place is assured. And I must just say, just before we talk about the 3 games tonight, Ruffy, well done to Hearts. I mean, honestly, this season, if you were handing out an award for a club who've absolutely tapped into the right thing to do, paying for the supporters' buses from Thistle. Maybe we'll have a double-edged sword on it. They've paid for the supporters because the game get called off so soon. Obviously, a nice little payback also for the Thistle fans, helping them when they were in administration. So, a club that just seems to be with Anne Budge at the helm, doing the right thing. Yep,
you can't knock them at all. Since they've come up this season, they've been fantastic. They've been on top of anything that's happened to sort of give the club a bad name. They've sorted it out, and that's another good PR exercise. I think everybody will agree that it's good to show that to another club, that kind of thing, and it can only help you in the future. If you get a bond with another club, you can grow in it.
We're mentioning about Kilmarnock. I think they would want to win the game. You've got to give special mention to Jim McIntyre and Billy Dodds at Ross County. They have been fantastic this year, and strong unit. Play some good stuff. 4-4-2, 2 strikers up the park. And a lot of credit must go to them as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gus, because if anything, the one thing I get from players is he is meticulous. He works on shape, formation, set pieces, everything. And I think he's getting his just rewards now because he has a chairman who wants to back him and give him the players that he's after.
Yeah, Roy McGregor has backed every manager that he's had at the club. And he just wants success for Ross County and the Highlands. But Jim's came in, made an impact immediately, went on a really good run. And he's got players from England up, get the physical presence as well. So they're now, the cup final as well to look forward to. So it's been a fantastic season for them. But Jim did really well at Dunfermline. Maybe suffered through his own success when they came up to the Premier League and lost his job there, but didn't lose his determination, his focus to be a success, and he's got that opportunity at Ross County with a very good chairman behind him.
Yeah, and long may it continue. Ruffy, I'm going to start to believe tonight if Dundee United. I'm going to believe, Ruffy, if Dundee United beat Aberdeen. But I have to say, I'm still saying to you, I mean, I have a look at the table. Yep. For me, they're still going down. But I must admit, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous on this prediction.
Yeah, I've said all along, if they can just keep eating away, you know, that the two that are above them, because I've said already that I think the two that are immediately above them are the ones that are struggling. They're not scoring goals. They're not winning games, and you know, Dundee United just have to keep picking up a point here, 3 points there, till they get to the split. And if they get to the split on some kind of form, while these other two teams are in a wee bit of free fall, you never know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real battle, and suddenly from nowhere, driven on, I think, to be fair, by Paul Payton.
Driven on by the chairman's comments, I think, as well. So I think they'll say that had nothing to do with it, but that will have galvanised the dressing room as well. Paul Payton, an ex-Queen's Park player as well. But you look and think, 2 games in hand over Kilmarnock. They'll believe if they can win one of the games in hand that they're still in there with a real fighting chance.
Yep. Here's some of the results from last night in the lower leagues as well. League 1, Albion Rovers 1, Stennismuir 1, Ayr United 4, Cowdenbeath 1 and Brecon City 4-0. And in League 2, which is obviously something that won't have surprised you, Gus, Clyde 0, East Stirlingshire 1. They've come up with a few results that have Ruffy and I with the raised eyebrows thinking, really? Yeah. One is against you guys.
Yeah, we had a real off day that day, but credit to East Stirling. Played well and convincingly beat us 3-0 at Hampden, and I think that's their first victory since that. But it should be no surprise, in League 2 anybody can beat anybody on their day, home or away.
Yeah, and on that point, we were talking about some of the players that have come through the ranks at Queen's Park. We've just put together 9 of the quality players. Maybe we're clutching at straws with a few in the association of it, but Andy Robertson, Aidan Connolly, Blair Spittle, Barry Douglas, Paul Payton, Ricky Lamy, Darryl Meggett, Aidan McGeady. It's a tenuous link because he was there when he was younger, Gus, but we're putting it in. Lawrence Shanklin. You could probably come up with a few more that have come through in that conveyor belt.
Yeah, well, even ones that spring to mind that didn't maybe make it to the first team. David McCracken, Stephen Saunders. We've got a couple at the moment. You know, we've got a 16-year-old Liam Brown in the first team at the moment. Lee Conley, who looks as if he's going to go to Sunderland. They play in the under-17 team. It's a good group that Queen's Park have got at under-17 at the moment. They now play Celtic for a place in the Glasgow Cup final. Yeah. So the future's there, but it always has been with Queen's Park. You get them into the first team a lot earlier because you feel that's the right thing to do.
But is that the attraction, or is it you've got a good scouting system as well?
Well, that's the attraction as well. It's a bit of both. You know, that you're able to convince the younger players that they'll get an opportunity quicker within the first team. There's a big argument going on at the moment that Mark Wharton's brought up again, that a lot of football people have brought up in recent years about the development league and the under-20s, that, you know, younger players, 16, 17, 18, they should be round about your first team or close to it. 19 or 20, if they're not at the first team, they become disillusioned and their motivation, you know, changes. So at Queen's Park, you know, 17, 18, you're round about the first team. If you are good enough, that's what you can never forget, if you're good enough. And attitude has got to be spot on as well. But the younger players, you know, will certainly get the chance at Queen's Park.
Yep. You've got a game against Berwick at the weekend. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. We always do, Gus, just to see if you're going to be kicking the. Are you a teacup thrower these days, Gus? Or are you more calm about it all?
I've always been calm.
Yeah.
No, we have our moments. You know, but I think credit to our group of players. You know, we're very respectful. You know what they give up. You know, and their time. You know, and their commitment to the club, so you know we're delighted with what we're doing this year.
Yep. Just before we finish, Ruffy, Celtic in action tonight against Dundee. It's a big couple of games for Dundee, obviously Celtic and Rangers, but Celtic looks as if they're going to leave out Stefan Johansson. I think now Ronnie Dyler just bowing to the pressure, taking him out of the spotlight. Yeah,
well, I think sometimes you've got to do that. You know, when a player's not hitting the form that you know he can, and the fans start getting on his back, sometimes you're doing him a favour, you know, just to give him a wee break, because there's no doubt about it, he's a quality player. He was their player of the year last year, so maybe he just needs that break.
Yep. Gus, just briefly on this, Aberdeen, have they blown their chance to try and take Celtic all the way?
Yeah, I think so. I think Celtic will win the league quite comfortably. I think, again, used to that environment, just to go and grind things out. And Derek said after the weekend there, they've only got themselves to blame, kicking themselves for dropping the 2 points there. But it's just the mentality when you have to win the game, the pressure's just that little bit greater, and then you find out the players that can handle that.
Yep. Dundee?
Yeah, I was reading Paul Hartley's got selection problems. I think the selection problems will be who he wants to keep for the weekend.
Yep.
He'll want to have all these players in top form for that one, and they've got players that could cause anybody problems, particularly up front.
Okay, thanks to Gus MacPherson. Always great to have him on the programme alongside Alan Ruff. And just as a farewell on this one, happy birthday to one of the first British guys to lift the European Cup. He's 76 today, Billy McNeil. It's his birthday, and from everyone on the football show, happy birthday, Caesar. From Gus, from Ruffy and myself, good night.